Granddaughter, leave these people. Tomorrow morning, go to your mother-in-law's house and you will see everything for yourself, my deceased grandmother told me in a dream the day before the wedding. I obeyed, and upon arriving at my mother-in-law's house, I froze at what I saw. And before we continue, please tell me, what country are you from and how old are you? Enjoy listening. Marina loved the early morning hours. At this time, the city was not yet in a hurry. In the courtyard, only the heels of rare passers-by clicked, and in the opposite window, a light was slowly lit. In Marina's kitchen, the kettle hissed quietly, it smelled of dried mint, and on the table lay a neatly cut loaf. Everything was simple and homely, like in her grandmother Nina's time, who taught her granddaughter to love order and quiet. There was only one day left until the wedding. In the room, on the back of a chair, hung a white dress, not fluffy, but modest, with a thin belt. On the windowsill, next to a small jar of pins, stood a bouquet of blue cornflowers. Marina cut them yesterday from the neighbor's front garden. Grandmother always said there should be at least one living flower in the house to remind us of the heart. It too should live, not gather dust. These words were remembered often, especially in recent weeks when there wasn't enough nerve for everything, for choosing shoes, for conversations with her future mother-in-law, for endless guest lists and trifles. Igor seemed reliable, tall, calm, with a short haircut and a direct gaze. He worked in a construction firm and loved talking about estimates and deadlines. He assured her that he knew how to keep his word. Marina believed him. She generally readily believed people if they spoke without unnecessary gestures. She liked Igor's moderation. He didn't make noise, didn't argue pointlessly, didn't demand the impossible. True, his mother, Tatiana Pavlovna, was different, decisive, strict, with a cold smile and a habit of saying, "It will be so." Marina tried not to be offended. Her mother-in-law was older, with experience. If she advised, it meant she considered it necessary. That evening, Marina went to bed early to calm down, but sleep did not come immediately. Her grandmother's kitchen stood before her eyes, the very one where an enamel pot hung under the ceiling, where in the corner an old radio whispered music, where Nina Ivanovna, with a knitted napkin, covered freshly baked pies. This grandmother's house remained Marina's inheritance, a small two-room apartment permeated with warmth and strong tea. As soon as her grandmother passed away, Marina didn't give it to anyone or rent it out. She lived there herself, carefully, according to the rules Nina had taught her. Sleep overtook her when the hands of the clock had passed midnight, and it was then that her grandmother seemed to enter the room. Not menacingly, not frighteningly, but the way she always entered. Quietly, as if afraid to wake someone, she sat at the head of the bed, smoothed her granddaughter's hair with the edge of her scarf, and said in a clear, familiar voice, "Granddaughter, leave these people. Tomorrow morning, go to your mother-in-law's house, and you will see everything for yourself." Marina shivered and woke up immediately. The kitchen was dark. A night coolness wafted from the window. She sat on the edge of the bed, listened to her own heart. It was beating steadily. "Nerves," she told herself. "The wedding is tomorrow. Grandmother dreamt of me because I'm thinking of her, but a strange feeling wouldn't let go. It was as if someone gently took her hand and pulled her in a direction not towards the dress, but towards where she needed to understand first, and then rejoice." Marina turned off the night light, tried to fall asleep again, and couldn't. She sat by the window, looking at the wide road where occasional cars drove by, and remembered her grandmother's words. If you feel anxious, don't argue with yourself. Take a small step and check. A small step meant going to Tatiana Pavlovna's house in the morning, not to spy, just to wander around, to stand there. Maybe the foolishness would blow away. Dawn broke quickly. At 6 o'clock, Marina was already dressed. A simple skirt, a light blouse, her hair tied in a tight bun, and comfortable ballet flats. She took her bag, threw on a cardigan. Her future mother-in-law's house stood in a private sector on the outskirts, not tall, with a green gate and a neat path to the porch. Grapevines twined around the canopy, geraniums on the windowsills. Everything was in order, well maintained. Tatiana Pavlovna loved order. Marina stopped opposite by a poplar tree and pretended to adjust her bag strap, listening. In such moments one feels uneasy, as if doing something alien. But her grandmother's voice from the dream stood beside her. Go, and you will see for yourself. At first it was quiet, then a door slammed inside and heels began to clatter. Tatiana Pavlovna came out onto the porch in a light suit, with her hair neatly styled, clutching a folder to her side. Following her was a woman about 40 years old in a business dress, holding thin transparent files in her hands, and bracelets jingled on her wrist. They stopped at the steps, exchanged glances, and Tatiana Pavlovna said quietly, "Everything is according to plan. First the registry office, then to the notary. She will sign the power of attorney without a word. The girls don't even read such things. The main thing for us is to do it today." "And with the apartment too, today?" asked the second woman. "Of course, right after the notary, we'll stop by my acquaintance. We'll rewrite it neatly, without any fuss. Don't worry." The mother-in-law smirked slightly. "Marina is a mild-mannered girl. Tell her to sign. She will, especially for the family." Marina's stomach clenched, as if an ice stone had been placed inside. Power of attorney, apartment, rewrite neatly. The words fell like hailstones on glass. She didn't take a step, only tightened her grip on the strap. Tatiana Pavlovna and her companion descended the steps, gravel crunched outside the gate, and a car drove away. It all took seconds, but it was enough for the dream to cease being a dream. She walked back slowly, so as not to betray anything with her expression. The walk to the bus stop seemed longer than usual. On the bus, she looked out the window and saw not streets, but lines of text. Power of attorney, rewrite, do it today. She got off before her stop and turned onto a neighboring street where a small legal consultation was located. Above the door, an inconspicuous sign, Consultation. Inside, it smelled of paper, coffee, and a certain calm confidence. "Good morning," said Marina, trying to speak simply. "I need a consultation. I'm getting married urgently, and today they are trying to take me to a notary to sign some documents. They told me it was about family matters, but I'm not sure. Can you help me understand how to protect myself?" The lawyer turned out to be a short woman with clear eyes. Her name was Polina Arkadyevna. She listened attentively, without interrupting, and asked a few short questions. "Does Marina have any property? What kind of apartment is it? Who is it registered to, and who does she live with? Are there any debts? How long ago did her grandmother die?" Then she said, "First and most importantly, you have the right to file an application with Rossrichter stating that any registration actions concerning your apartment can only be carried out with your personal presence. This is called an application on the impossibility of state registration without personal participation. It is submitted once and provides very serious protection. Even if you give someone power of attorney later, nothing will be registered without you. We will do this today. We have an appointment through the MFC. And what if they want me to sign a general power of attorney for my husband?" Marina asked quietly. "You have the right not to sign," Polina answered calmly. "Any notary is obliged to read the text of the power of attorney and explain the legal consequences. You are free to refuse at any moment. Moreover," the lawyer flipped through a folder and took out a blank form, "we can prepare and notarize your refusal to grant powers of attorney for the apartment in advance. This is not a mandatory document, but it's a good stance to take. Plus, we will certify copies of your title documents and keep them. And one more thing. Immediately after filing the application with Rossrichter, let's arrange your will with a notary. No transactions with the apartment should be made without my personal participation. Notaries like this. It's the clear will of the owner." Marina nodded. At that moment, she wanted not to cry or argue, but simply to have a piece of paper in her hands, written in black and white, stating that she was not an object or an empty space. "And what about the wedding?" she asked, unexpectedly for herself. "The wedding is your personal matter," Polina said simply. "But signing documents is a legal matter. Separate them. If you want, find the strength to walk down the aisle. If you want, postpone it, but never sign anything for the family without reading it. This is not about love, it's about caution." Your grandmother, I must say, was wise, even in her dreams. For the first time that morning, Marina smiled. "Grandmother always valued clarity," she said softly. They went to the MFC. Marina filed a short but seemingly ironclad application with Rose Reister. The service representative noted the deadline. "Processing in progress. The entry will be made today." Then they went to the notary, where Polina businesslike explained why the statement of the owner's will was necessary. The notary, a man in glasses, nodded, read it aloud, asked Marina if she understood what she was doing, and certified the document. Marina left his office like she had a bill. The anxiety hadn't disappeared, but it had become clear. She returned home closer to noon. Messages were flooding her phone. Friends were asking if everything was ready. Her aunt called about a blouse. Igor sent a message. "I'll come by at 5. We're going somewhere." This phrase, "somewhere," no longer seemed harmless. Marina didn't want to quarrel in advance. She put on the kettle, washed the apples, put them in a bowl, took the dress off the back of the chair, and carefully put it in a cover. Her home breathed evenly, as if understanding. Now is not the time to tear your heart, but to use your mind. At 5 o'clock, Igor arrived by taxi, politely opened the door, took Marina's handbag, behaved gently, even excessively. "We have a small matter," he said on the stairs. "Mom arranged with the notary to skip the line. A couple of signatures and we're free. Then we'll sit in a cafe, relax. Tomorrow is an important day. We need to unwind." "What signatures?" Marina asked without rushing. "Oh, just some paperwork for the family. So, we can manage things jointly." He waved his hand. "You'll see. Nothing special. Everyone does it." "Well, let's go," she said. In the taxi, Igor spoke easily about how Sasha would give him a normal microwave from work, how Aunt Zina promised to make homemade salads, how they found a good, inexpensive, and competent photographer, as if covering up with this chatter the side where everything was already planned. Marina looked at his profile and thought that the most terrible thing in people is not malice, but the confident habit of considering another a convenient object. The notary's office was in the center. On the second floor of an old building, a door with a sign, inside a small reception area, 2 chairs against the wall, a ficus in the corner. A female administrator sat at the desk. In the office was the same notary they had already visited with Polina. He looked up from his papers, politely nodded to Marina, and looked at Igor. "Hello. Come in. Documents." Tatiana Pavlovna was already inside in a perfectly fitting suit with that same folder. She smiled coldly, as if the smile was also part of the suit. "We're here with the power of attorney," she said, handing over the papers. "Nothing complicated, so we don't have to run around for every little thing later. It's easier for young people to sign once now." The notary took the document, glanced at it, and then looked at Marina over his glasses. A power of attorney for carrying out transactions related to the disposition of the client's real estate. He spoke clearly and loudly, omitting not a single line. "In particular, for concluding purchase and sale, gift, exchange, pledge agreements, for submitting documents for state registration." He raised his gaze. "Do you confirm that you understand the scope of authority?" Igor faltered. "What is there to understand? It's a normal paper. We're in a hurry. The wedding is tomorrow, you see." "Wait," Marina smiled simply and turned to the notary. "And could you check with Rose Reister if there are any restrictions on my property? I filed an application today. I want to know if it worked." The notary nodded, typed on the keyboard, looked at the monitor, and grunted approvingly. "Yes. An entry has been made for your property. State registration of rights, restrictions, encumbrances is only possible with the personal participation of the rights holder. This means that even if you sign this power of attorney, no transaction will be registered without your personal presence." Silence fell in the office. The silence was not offended, not prickly. It was a silence of understanding. Igor lowered his eyes. Tatiana Pavlovna pursed her lips. "What kind of application?" the mother-in-law asked restrainedly. "Mine," Marina replied. "I am the owner of my grandmother's apartment, and this morning I filed an application that no actions concerning the real estate can be taken without me. It is legal and correct." Oh, really? Tatiana Pavlovna tried to smile, but the smile came out awkward. This is distrust, Marina. Family is trust. Family is respect, Marina said quietly. And honesty. Trust in a family is not a piece of paper at a notary for someone else's hands. Trust is when you say in advance what you want to do and ask if the other person agrees. You wanted to take it quickly so you wouldn't have to run around. That's not about family. Igor looked up. There was no anger in his eyes. There was confusion, like a person caught not in a crime, but in a naive belief. Marina, that's how it is for everyone, he said, trying to reach out his hand but not daring. I didn't want to offend you. Mom said, it will be easier for us this way. You're not against everything in the family being shared, are you? I am against my apartment being rewritten somewhere without me looking, she replied calmly. And I'm against being considered a girl who doesn't understand anything. I understand and I do what I think is necessary. I will not sign the document. And you? Marina looked at the notary. Excuse me for taking your time. Thank you for reading it aloud. That's what we're here for, the notary said with a slight nod. And yes, I must ask, do you firmly refuse to sign the power of attorney? Firmly, Marina replied. Then I will draw up an act of refusal. It's a formality. While he was typing, Tatiana Pavlovna remained silent, only her fingers tapped almost imperceptibly on the armrest. When they left the office, she stopped in the reception area, looked back, and lowering her voice said, Marina, you're making a mistake. There should be order in the family, and I establish order because I have experience. You don't understand yet how everything works. Everyone has their own order, Marina replied. Mine is like this. I sign my documents myself, and only after I've read them. Why are you even talking to her? Igor couldn't stand it. Let's go. The wedding is tomorrow. We need to think about good things. There will be no wedding tomorrow, Marina said calmly. I will file an application to postpone it. I need time. Tatiana Pavlovna sighed heavily. I knew your grandmother stirred you up. Grandmother taught me to ask questions, Marina said, and not to be afraid to do what I think is right. They parted at the porch. Igor walked quickly, looking at the ground. Tatiana Pavlovna walked with her head held high as if on a stage. Marina walked at her own pace, steadily. She didn't feel victory, nor did she feel resentment. She felt clarity. And clarity is when there is no noise inside. In the evening, she brewed mint tea, opened her grandmother's jewelry box, where family photographs lay. On top was a picture. A young grandmother in a white dress, her eyes laughing. Next to her was the same house, the same kitchen. Marina placed the photo by the kettle so it would be like in Nina Ivanovna's time. She sat down and for the first time that day exhaled. The phone rang often. Her friends were asking if the rumors were true. Her aunt tried to persuade her not to ruin everything. Igor wrote briefly, "Let's talk. I didn't want to." Her mother was furious. Tatiana Pavlovna didn't write. She was probably gathering words for tomorrow. Marina accused no one and justified no one. She reread 2 documents, the extract from Rosrester and the notarized confirmation of the owner's will, like a prayer. Only instead of sound, there was the silence of the text. In the morning, she went to the registry office and wrote an application to postpone the registration. The employee looked carefully, without surprise. Apparently, she had seen similar things many times. "Brides sometimes need air," she said with her gaze, and aloud she said, "Come back when you're sure." The days then flowed calmly. Marina worked, cleaned the house, went to the market for apples and cucumbers. A few days later, Igor finally came without calling, but politely. He knocked, didn't yank the handle. He wore a light sweater, his face pale. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. "Come in," Marina said. He sat on the edge of a chair at the table, looked at the mug, at the vase with cornflowers. Marina had cut them again that morning. "I understand I was wrong," he began, wincing as if from something bitter. "I thought it would be more correct this way, that family means shared. Mom always said so. I didn't want to take yours. I wanted everything to be, well, together." Together is when you ask, Marina replied. I'm not against together, Igor. I'm against it without me. I understand. He nodded. He paused and then exhaled everything at once. I'm ashamed, not of my mother, but of myself. That I didn't stop her, that I didn't think, that I took the easy way. That's already a step, Marina said calmly. Shame is sometimes useful. It's smarter than resentment. It tells you where the boundaries are. They drank tea without sugar and spoke in simple words. Igor wasn't making excuses. It was evident. He wasn't trying to convince Marina of the peculiarities of the circumstances. He said he needed time to sort himself out and figure out how to live without his mother's guidance. Marina didn't promise anything, didn't say yes or no. She said only one thing. Let's be honest. No secret night arrangements behind someone's back. No little things for the family. Igor nodded, and as he left he said, I will try to become a person with whom it is not shameful to live. Tatiana Pavlovna called that evening. Her voice was different, not commanding, but tired. Marina, she said without embellishment, you acted wisely. I intruded rudely. One shouldn't do that. If possible, she faltered, I will visit less often. I will learn to be silent when I am not asked. It is difficult, but I will try. Come, Marina replied, but let's do it without the Nana and properly. If something concerns me and my apartment, I decide. The rest we will discuss like people. Agreed? The mother-in-law said quietly and hung up. Marina smiled. She didn't like long stories about what happened later, and in life things rarely turn out like in thick novels. First a storm, then sun, then storm again. For her, it turned out differently. Instead of storms, a warm breeze and work. Intense, persistent, without loud words. She placed a myrtle on the windowsill. Grandmother said it was a tree of peace. She went through her wardrobe, sorted everything by color, as she liked. In the evenings, she started reading what she had long put off again, and every time she brewed mint, she smiled at the memory. Granddaughter, leave these people, come and you will see everything for yourself. She didn't run away. She approached, saw, and made a choice. It was getting dark outside the window. The sparrows had fallen silent. Marina stood up, walked to the window, looked at the myrtle and the blue cornflowers, clear as a celestial string. Then she took her grandmother's photograph out of the frame and quietly said, "Thank you," and put it back in place. That day, she didn't come up with a single grand word, but she did several simple things from which, like bricks, a strong life is built. She heard advice, checked it, saw it, defended herself, spoke calmly, and did not back down. And this is the very story that old people call sensible, not loud, not like in a movie, but real. With tea, with paper, with human dignity, and with the memory of those who once taught not to substitute love for credulity and trust for blindness. And in the morning, she woke up early again, opened the window, breathed in the fresh air, and smiled at the future. Not everything in it was clear, but there was enough clarity in the main thing. She would no longer go where her voice was not welcome, and she would not sign any family papers that were not read aloud to her, because her grandmother taught her that her own signature is worth more than all the promises of others.